Hello. Probably each of you has heard about the city of Pripyat and the Chernobyl tragedy that occurred there. Surely you have watched many videos on this topic, so let's not discuss the same thing over and over, and instead learn about other poisoned ghost towns that people are still afraid to venture into. Pitcher, Oklahoma, USA. The city of Pitcher was established in 1914 when lead and zinc deposits were discovered in the area. The city's population grew rapidly as there was a high demand for both metals during World War I, and Pitcher helped meet that demand. Over half of the lead and zinc used by America during the war was supplied by local mines. Eventually, the city became one of the world's largest exporters of lead and zinc. Unfortunately, mining left a byproduct: white, chalky sand. By the time metal mining ceased in the 1970s, an estimated 178 million tons of sand, gravel, and silt had accumulated around the city. At that time, the townspeople had no idea that all this was very toxic. They used the sand for building roads and filled children's sandboxes with it. Families had picnics on the toxic mounds, children rode bikes down them, and school students conducted physical education classes there. In the 1990s, a school counselor learned about the connection between lead and student illnesses. Children were, of course, examined, and 46% of them were found to have dangerous levels of lead in their blood. The government tried to clean up the city, but abandoned the idea when massive ground subsidence began. Most of the city's buildings were at risk of collapse. That's when a plan was approved to buy out the city residents' properties and relocate them. Almost all the residents moved out, but a few families decided to stay. The city remains toxic, despite the fact that overall air quality meets minimum sanitary standards. However, on windy days, the city is enveloped by a cloud of dust that contains a lot of lead. Even wild animals are not immune to poisoning. In 2015, more than 1,000 dead migratory birds were discovered around Pitcher, believed to have died from zinc poisoning. Jamena, Romania. In 1977, Nicolae Ceausescu, the dictator of Romania, decided to develop a huge copper deposit. The toxic waste from the mine needed to be disposed of somewhere, and Ceausescu chose to sacrifice the village of Jamena. 400 families were evacuated and relocated elsewhere. Most of the village was turned into an artificial lake, which collected waters contaminated by the waste. At its peak, the copper mine produced about 11,000 tons of copper per year. As mining increased, so did the lake. All that eventually remained of the village was a church and a few houses. The lake continues to grow today. The water level rises about 1 meter a year, and soon the village will be completely submerged. This lake is poisonous. It contains various chemicals that have turned its natural color red. Its water has cadmium levels 10 times higher than normal, an extremely toxic metal. Excessive cadmium can cause mutations in plants and animals, as well as diseases of the liver, kidneys, and lungs in humans. New Idria, California, USA. The town of New Idria was founded in 1854, near the largest and one of the most productive mercury mines in the country. The mine was so valuable that during World War I, it was guarded around the clock by armed soldiers. It operated until 1971, when the company that owned the mine shut down. Soon after, the town was abandoned. Naturally, no one bothered to clean up the mine. There are about 50 kilometers of underground tunnels filled with mercury-polluted water. All this water poisons the local river, which has turned a bright orange color. In addition to mercury, the water contains aluminum, iron, and nickel. This is precisely the composition that causes batteries to corrode instantly. The polluted water flows into nearby bodies of water and contaminates the local fauna. Bacteria convert mercury into methylmercury, one of the most dangerous pollutants. Methylmercury gets into fish, and then people who consume such fish can experience headaches, tingling, and trembling in the body. In some, especially children, brain diseases and nervous system damage may develop. Wittenoom, Western Australia. Wittenoom was a large town located near the only blue asbestos mine in Australia. Its extraction began in the 1940s and continued for over 30 years. After a link was established between asbestos dust and lung diseases, the Australian government closed the mine. But asbestos had already caused damage to both the town and its residents. Out of the 20,000 people who lived and worked in Wittenoom during the mine's operation, at least 2,000 died from asbestos-related illnesses. Even those who didn't work in the mines suffered from contamination. Among those born and raised in Wittenoom, the cancer mortality rate was 60% higher than among the general population. The government, of course, considered the possibility of cleaning up Wittenoom, but concluded that it would be cheaper and safer to relocate people and abandon the town. Near Wittenoom, there are about 3 million tons of tailings contaminated with asbestos dust. But this is not the only source of pollution. Asbestos waste has been used as a building material for decades. Roads, pipelines, the airstrip, and even the golf course all contain asbestos. People brought asbestos into their homes. They used it instead of sand and leveled areas around their houses with it. The entire area is completely covered with microscopic asbestos fibers. Inhaled, these fibers can pierce the lungs. They cause inflammation and mutations that contribute to the growth of cancerous tumors. Even brief exposure to asbestos can lead to the appearance of metastases and lung cancer. Bento Rodrigues, Brazil. Bento Rodrigues was located near an iron ore mine. The mine waste was discharged into the nearest lake, and the dam protected the village from toxic water. In 2015, a leak appeared in the dam, releasing 35 million liters of toxic mud. Bento Rodrigues was hit by a 10-meter mud wave. The entire city turned red. The site was inspected by 2 UN ecological experts. They found that the mud contained high levels of heavy metals and other toxic chemicals. They also discovered that the mud had entered the city's water supply and that the levels of arsenic and lead exceeded Brazil's maximum allowable standards by 10 to 20 times. The mine owners had to relocate the residents of Bento Rodrigues. They may never be able to return home. Restoring the ecological balance will take anywhere from 10 to 50 years, according to various estimates. There is even a possibility that this area will never be suitable for living again. Centralia, USA. In 1962, the city authorities decided to burn a huge pile of garbage located at the nearby landfill. Unfortunately, the landfill, like much of the town, was situated above an abandoned coal mine. After the fire consumed the garbage, it ignited the coal remnants. The fire began to spread throughout the mine. Carbon monoxide began to seep from underground. People were losing consciousness right in their homes. Sinkholes and cracks started appearing all over the city. Authorities, together with all the people of this town, tried desperately to extinguish the fire. But nothing helped. The government realized they couldn't stop the fire, and it was decided to relocate all the residents. Today, the city is almost abandoned, and the fire still burns. It has consumed a huge part of the mines, destroying all the supports and coverings. Many mines could collapse at any moment. Because of this, it has become dangerous to walk on the surface. Even the air in the city is deadly. Sulfurous vapors emanate from hundreds of cracks and openings in the ground. The air is poisoned with gases and can kill a person. Bikini Atoll, Republic of the Marshall Islands. In 1946, representatives of the U.S. Navy approached the residents of Bikini Atoll. The islanders agreed to temporarily leave the island. Over the next 8 years, the United States government repeatedly detonated atomic bombs in the Marshall Islands. In total, 67 bombs were dropped, 23 of them on Bikini, including one that was 1,000 times more powerful than the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. In the late 1960s, official representatives of the United States declared that most of the radiation had already dissipated. Many of the islanders decided to return to their homes. 10 years passed, and they began to notice the consequences of radiation exposure. Women had many miscarriages and stillborn children, and surviving babies often had congenital defects. Many islanders developed thyroid problems, and the number of cancer cases increased. Scientists found that the radiation levels were still high, and the residents of Bikini Atoll had to leave their homes again. Today, the atoll remains uninhabited. The radiation level on it is almost twice the safety standards. That's all for today. Don't forget to like this video and, of course, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.